Wave people. If you work with the information provided here, you will find that universal anatomy and personal anatomy have a life of their own. You also discover you can never be alone in the universe. You can pretend you are alone in the universe. You can choose to set up a belief pattern that you are alone in the universe. If you want privacy, you can be private, but you are never, ever alone, because your body is made out of many billions of standing scalar waves who are wave people. Consciousness. Those wave people that make up our bodies are smaller than the consciousness that make up the part of ourselves we call our cognitive selves. So those parts of ourselves, those little waveforms that are beings in their own right, actually look to us for guidance to help them evolve to higher levels. So there is a responsibility that is implied with recognizing that you are part of the body of God Source. There is a responsibility in recognizing nothing is ever separate from God. Even if it falls down a black hole, it will go home differently. It will go home as space dust. But space dust is still sacred. There is no excuse anymore once you realize these things. Once you realize the structure, the science of spirituality, you realize why there is spirituality to spirituality. Because it implies that we are all swimming in a pool of unconditional and absolute love. Love that was given freely as a gift. So freely, in fact, that we were allowed to be destructive if we so chose. Recognizing the consciousness, we were not forced to uphold the original creation and intention of God Source, which was a joyful, loving experience of eternal life and infinite creativity. If that was forced on us, we would not be able to make choices. We would simply be puppets to a creator God someplace. And that is not the intention of the consciousness that created universal structure. It loved us so much, even though it would prefer that we did not do things like create black holes and harm each other and harm other things. That freedom is still allowed, though not preferred. There is a spirituality of recognizing the consciousness. The energy structures of the God worlds are fascinating on a scientific level. It is fascinating to see the structure and how the structures interrelate with each other. But we should not forget while we are looking at these that we are talking about consciousness. Consciousness implies a being. Structures of being. It is a whole different thing than if you are looking at something saying, oh, I can play with that thing. I can make that do what I want it to. I can learn how to make those currents do something. You might try asking them first if they want to work with you. There is a responsibility to recognize if you want to reclaim your consciousness and be whole and respected as the being you are. You have a responsibility to give respect to other forms of consciousness as well. It is such a shame what our children are not taught in this society and what has become of this civilization. Once upon a time it was not like this. Once upon a time people did not pick a flower without communicating with the whole bush telepathically, saying, is this all right? Is this a good time for you? Because I will not do it if you do not want me to. And the flower usually would say, oh, just hold on. Let me pull back my frequency a little bit so it does not hurt. There was an open conscious relationship with everything. People in those societies did not feel lonesome. You did not have teenagers committing suicide because of getting bullied at school. You did not have people shooting up restaurants because they were frustrated with their jobs. There was a love in those times and spaces.